Goedemiddag, good afternoon, and welcome to Amsterdam. Amsterdam, it's a mix of timeless and modern, known for its cozy cafes, bicycles, canals, gorgeous architecture, organized sex industry, and of course its famous marijuana coffee shops. But there's more to Amsterdam than just that, than just the red light district and blazed pot smokers walking around the streets. So join me today as we wander through this beautiful and famous city, exploring more of its history, its culture, and of course let's just get lost and see what happens. So come on. So this main street here is called Damrak, and it ends up in Dam Square, which is the direction that we'll be heading to. And here on the left side, this is kind of like the old historic side of Amsterdam. Towering above it is St. Nicholas Church. This was built in the 1880s. After Catholics for over 3 centuries finally were loosened from the grips of the oppressive rule and were able to actually worship their religion in public. So that's very interesting. So now a lot of this area is basically the red light district, and to the right of the Damrak, as we're heading south, this is the new part of Amsterdam. So you have Anne Frank's house here, a lot of other tourist exhibits as well. So now we're gonna head down further south. As you can see, in stereotypical style, there are a lot of bicycles here in Amsterdam. And why is that? Well, it's because everything's flat and there are such short distances, so it's so easy and effective to get around on a bicycle. We might also see some big bicycle garages. A lot of these are actually provided by the government free of charge to the public, basically as a way to help them store, a more efficient and green means of transport versus cars. So this street used to be a riverbed, so it would have helped a lot with getting things in and out of the city. And here we've got Dam Square. So behind me on the Damrak where we were just walking, this used to be the Amstel River. So for all of Amsterdam's existence, it was always a trading center. And basically this started way back in the 19th century, because in the 19th century, the Dutch dug the North Sea Canal. And today more than 100,000 ships a year still dock on the outskirts of Amsterdam. So there is a ton of business here. And of course, as a major trading center, the stock exchange fits perfectly. And that's what this is right behind me. And like so many buildings here in Amsterdam, this Beurs, or the stock exchange, was built on marshy sort of wetland. Not the greatest sort of land to be building on, but here we are. Amsterdam exists. It's a beautiful city that's been built on essentially marshland and canals. So let's take a moment to talk about the physical layout and the engineering of Amsterdam. This is pretty much all been built on marshy, unusable land. At least that's what a lot of people thought, until the Dutch put their engineering skills to use and actually started to put a bunch of pilings in, started to block off canals. The city is actually completely man-made. It was built from scratch. So there was a lot of soggy soil. These pilings had to be driven deep through this unstable mud until they hit more stable sand. So standing right here in Dam Square. Why is Dam Square important? Well, Dam Square essentially is the historic heart of Amsterdam. The city got its start right here in around 1250 when fishermen from these marshy banks went upriver, settled along these banks, and then actually dammed the Amstel River. So they blocked it and they created a small village called Amsterdam, and hence you've got Amsterdam today. Just going to get a little bit of a closer view of the Royal Palace. And as you can see, oh, that was just a pigeon that literally just swooped right in front of me. They're everywhere. I mean, there's tons of people, like, you know, there's no other way to put it. It is peak tourist season, as with a lot of these cities here. They're going to be overrun with tourists. But that's just part of the deal of, you know, being in Western Europe and traveling to these, you know, amazing destinations. Of course, there are ways to get around it, which we've talked about in previous videos. So now we're walking on Calvesta, which is a pedestrian-only area with a lot of streets. So, can you spot anything a little bit different on the street? Maybe this. This is Der Papagei, so it's actually a hidden church. So in the 1500s, Protestants were fighting Catholics here and basically everywhere, all around Europe. But in 1578, Protestant extremists took control of the city. They expelled the Catholic leaders and bishops and outlawed the entire religion, actually. So basically all the Catholics had to worship in clandestine ways. You know, Catholic churches were stripped of all their lavish decorations and converted into Reformed churches. And at the same time, Amsterdam was actually rising up against its Spanish overlords, who were Catholic and eventually threw them out. So, of course, the people of Amsterdam were not too fond of the Catholics. They didn't really want them praying publicly. So basically for the next 2 centuries, Amsterdam's Catholics were driven underground, and hence why this church was built, because it was a hidden church in an attic of a rich man here in Amsterdam. Here we've got the Berginghof, and this basically has been a complex of houses that has sheltered women from the 1300s, and it's still actually used today. So there are residents that live here. You can actually go in, there's a courtyard, and traditionally at the start it was used for women that would basically remove themselves from everyday life in order to dedicate their lives to God. And now we've arrived at the Mint Tower. This beautiful music that this gentleman is playing. Well, when you got to watch out for these cyclists. And basically this marked the outer limits of the medieval city here in Amsterdam. And it served as one of the original gates. So the city walls were girded by moats, so you can kind of get an idea of what medieval Amsterdam used to look like. So you've got some canals, and basically this would have been surrounding the city. Look at those beautiful buildings that we've got just lining these canals. I mean, that's what Amsterdam is known so much for. And here it is, right in person. It's so exciting to see. And again, actually, I'm seeing the slant in the buildings. So down here, you can get your canal tour throughout Amsterdam, which no doubt is a great thing to do, just like in Venice. So now we're on the Bloemen Market, which is basically the flower market. So this flower market stands as a testament to Holland's affinity, love affair with flowers. You can find anything from dried flowers here to seeds, tulips, for example. The Netherlands is by far the largest exporter of flowers throughout Europe, so still massive business. Maybe you guys have heard about the tulip mania, this craze that happened in the Netherlands. So basically, in the golden age, the merchants had so much money to burn. You know, they loved buying flowers for their home. The tulips grew from just a trendy fad into a all-out frenzy. In fact, the prices shot up, and a single prized bulb could sell for the equivalent of $1,000. So just think about that. You have one bulb of a tulip. If it's the right type, you can sell it for $1,000, a lot of money. So of course, speculators and investors jumped on this trend, and in doing so, they poured a ton of money into Amsterdam Stock Exchange. But then, overnight, the tulip bubble burst. So basically overnight, once wealthy investors were left with nothing but worthless pieces of paper and warehouses full of bulbs that nobody wanted anymore because the price had crashed. So tulip mania is always given as an interesting kind of case study in economics and investing, because it shows you what can happen when their psychology drives the market and not the actual value of the resource itself. So a lot of it just comes down to perceived value. But regardless, you know, the Dutch, their love for tulips persevered, and today they're a massive exporter of tulips and flowers across the world, around Europe. And as you can see, still going strong. So many different types of flowers and bulbs ready to be planted. It's a nice little promenade here, just straddling the canal. A lot of these flower shops. There's even a magic mushroom gallery here, so let's check it out. Just a small store, but basically they're selling like smoking paraphernalia, even seeds actually, for people to grow their own marijuana plants that automatically flower within 8 weeks, different strains, sativas, indicas. It really does seem that you can pretty much get anything here if you're a pot smoker in Amsterdam. So we're going to continue walking and exploring a little bit more of the canals. So as we're walking past these beautiful grand canals that Amsterdam is so famous for, we can see a lot of these stately, beautiful townhouses, you know, the houses of these rich merchants, which now are still homes to people today, but in many cases have been turned into boutique stores or apartments. But they have different styles of gables, and Amsterdam has many different styles of gables. In this particular canal, they're kind of step-shaped gables, but in other areas we'll see cornice gables, and they're all beautiful, just different types of rich decorations that the wealthy were able to adorn on the facades of their townhouses as a way to show their status and their wealth to the community. There are so many canals around Amsterdam because it was all built on basically marshy land. They dammed a lot of different areas here, and they needed the excess water to be channeled safely away into canals. And hence why we have these beautiful canals and these pockets of dry land in order to actually build on. Today Amsterdam has about 100 different canals, ranging from about 5 to 10 feet deep. So we've emerged in the square full of coffee shops, people settling in for dinner. It's almost sunset, and oh, let's go for a little bit of a walk around here and just see what we can find. So I can see a famous symbol there, the bulldog, which is like I think a franchise cafe or franchise coffee shop here in Amsterdam. Got a couple around the city. And I've been told by a couple of people that oh, I can already smell it, that it's yeah, pretty good, so they rate it. So food, burgers, breakfast, snacks, sandwiches, but interestingly they're not mentioning anything else. You can like walk in without a reservation, I'm guessing, right? No, of course. Oh, sweet, sweet. Okay. Excellent.
No pictures inside, eh?
Oh, okay, right. So I emerged in this square and I went for a bit of a walk around, and I saw the famous Bulldog Cafe symbol or brand icon over there. And well, I kind of walked through and just saw what it's all about. It's my first time going into a coffee shop. So it's like they've got the actual cafe to the left, they're serving meals and whatnot, and then downstairs to the right, ironically in what used to be the main police station here in Amsterdam, they're actually selling, you know, the different types of marijuana and whatnot, as well as like just alcoholic drinks. What's interesting though is that they can't have any menus in sight, so you have to like go kind of behind this barred area and talk to a specific seller, and then you kind of look at what you would want and then you would pick, because as it was explained to me by someone who worked there, it's not 100% legal. It's kind of a grey area, which is why they can't legally advertise it. The other strange thing, you know, everyone's smoking weed on the streets, yet the businesses themselves can't actually allow you to like smoke in the kind of alfresco cafe area out in front. You can do it inside, but like outside, it's not allowed. So it's interesting. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this walk around Amsterdam. There's still so much more to see and do, so I've no doubt that I'll be exploring again the next couple of days and doing some more videos. But for now, this is a great little introduction. We learned about the culture, the history, how Amsterdam became wealthy, learning about the coffee shop culture, about how it was founded, how it was built, and in general, just following the canals and the different markets and looking at the beautiful buildings. So yeah, I think it's been a day well spent, and I am hungry and going to go get some dinner now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next adventure.